Greetings and salutations. This is Big J, and in this video, I'm going to respond to Professor Tim Wilson. A long overdue response video he did a few weeks ago entitled The Defeat of Liberalism in the US and EU. In that video, he expounded about his feelings about this rapid populism that's going on in the United States, Canada, Great Britain, and Western Europe. And I too have my concerns on how the populist fervor has taken over Western society. And let me surmise my response to this, and because I think the issue that created populism, right-wing populism, is that of Trumpism, the Le Penism. I forgot the political party that won in Italy the last couple of years. The rise of right-wing conservatism. I think the only country that has not been that's not going there is Canada. Even though Trumpism is gaining traction within the Canadian populace, Trumpism is just an extension of populism, where you have the poor, downtrodden, Caucasian community, which feels very who's felt very abandoned by the social and political class and the financial institutions. And the tragedy of it is that, like it always happens in the time of history, the downtrodden will usually gravitate towards a strong man type character, who will quote unquote fight with them, even despite the fact that there are negative connotations to the to the population. Case in point, since I'm an American, I'm gonna use another president, not Trump. I'm gonna use another American president who has the same vile, destructive populist, who created a populist movement that was somewhat destructive to the other parts of the American population. And I'm gonna use two presidents. I ain't gonna use one. I'm gonna use two. One of them people might know. The second one, somebody might not know. I'm gonna use Andrew Jackson, right? Andrew Jackson from the great state of Tennessee. One of the founders of the Democratic Party. Using the downtrodden, conspiracy theories, and so forth, he rose to power with great zeal and try to fight the ruling class. And despite the fact that him fighting the ruling class also gave birth to another form of oppression. Trying to fight for the lower class white population in order to oppress the in order to oppress the native population in the Carolinas and Georgia, and begin the trail of tears. 30 years later, I'm gonna use another president. After the Civil War, after the death of Abraham Lincoln, came Andrew Johnson, another president from the great state of Tennessee. Him being a quote unquote mudstill, people who are seen, white Americans who were seen to be below, who are at the bottom of the social economic class, used the use he used his populism to identify with the poor white American farmer, and use the quote unquote Negro population uh, as a tool to oppress, and so that the poor white population can increase in his standing within American society. It's the same way like what's going on today, right? Let's use, your Tommy Robinsons of in Great Britain. Let's use the Donald Trump of here in the United States. Let's use I'm trying to remember who else. Let's use the lady named Le Pen in France. Um, they use the frustration of the lower class to look for the outside force to be the arbiter of their destruction, the author of their pain, and that is the immigrant. And what's so funny is that we use we pride ourselves with diversity, whether here on this side of the Atlantic or on the other side of the Atlantic. We like to pride ourselves on our diversity, our and so forth. But at the same time, we don't want to. But at the same time, we go back into our nativisms and be scared of the quote unquote the other. Um, and and the reason why, and I think the fault of liberalism, the fault of liberalism is the um, has to be laid on the feet of those who practice liberalism as well. A lot of people in the poor regions of society has not been kindly um, benefit from liberalism itself, because we want to sit there and use there's always been some actors within the press, within the media, within academia, and try to talk about what we can do for the middle class and what we can do for the downtrodden of society. Case in point, you know, it's illegal in some parts of the United States, Canada, no, in Canada as well, where you cannot feed the homeless. There's some liberal areas in this nation that you cannot feed the homeless and those who are poor. But yet the liberal will always practice that we need to do for the least of these. And that also gives birth to those individuals who gravitate towards the demagoguery of the right. Thus Trumpism, thus this. And let me also say this too, in because I think populism is made up of three different types. The three different types of individuals I would like to say is those who are conspiracy theorists, those who are lonely, those who are outcasts, and those are types of people that gravitate to the Tommy Robinsons, the Donald Trumps, the Le Pens, and so forth. Flat Earth, anti-vaccines, Moonlander, deniers, and so forth. And you can't just blame these figures that we see on TV. We got to identify what is the psychosis, the mental development of these certain people who gravitate towards a Donald Trump, a Tommy Robinson, and so forth. We got to identify it, because young angry men, knowing the history of what happened in Spain in the 1920s and into the Spanish Civil War, or how the young men who was angered towards the French Revolution and fed into the machine by your Napoleon Bonapartes of the world, or yes, even the Hitler Youth, or those who joined in the right wing governments and youth factions within the 1930s Europe, in Italy, Germany, Austria, and so forth. So we got to identify. I think the best thing to do is stress on education. Is stress on making sure that people are getting their needs met. No, that's not a good answer. Not their needs met. Make sure they could have the access to get their needs met. And we got to deal with loneliness, because lonely people, just like the Tim Robinsons, lonely people feed into the demagoguery. And people like what we see on our TVs and radios today, they need anger, they need hatred. They drive off of another person's despair. And yes, and that's what I believe is the correct path in addressing the or I should say this right wing populism that's been going on. And liberals gonna have to fix this, because liberals, again, I gotta say this, liberals in academia and in the media is partly to blame for their aloofness, their pride, and their let's say classism. So that's all I'm going to say on it. That's my reaction to the good professor from the United Kingdom. Big J out.